Hello to all, and thank you for inviting me to talk to you today. I would like to begin by telling you a very short story about how we got to the point that we are in the world today when it comes to building cities. Not too long ago, most places in the world shared a common fate about how their people lived in urban environments. Cities were smaller, more compact, more walkable, altogether using fewer resources. They were closer to nature. They were being lived in a way that was very particular to their cultures, and they were enjoying a kind of life that was absolutely unique to them. Something very disruptive happened beginning in England in the 19th century, and then all over the world, one country after another, by which industrial production, the bringing of cars, the increase of populations, the expansion of trade began to make cities that were perhaps more prosperous, but were less and less livable, and which have led us away from those timeless and important ways of being human beings in the context of the kinds of surroundings that we should be dedicating our lives to. Perhaps one of the greatest global challenges today is to return to a state of grace in cities by combining the timeless values of the past, such as living quality in cities based on economic opportunity, on social interaction, on environmental balance, and so on, and combine them with some of the greatest technical means at our disposal today. Continuing levels of high production, continuing access to mobility through cars and transit and so on, and build cities that are new and amenable at the same time. In that spirit, about 25 years ago, 6 colleagues, including my partner Liz Moll and I, decided to form a movement called the New Urbanism with a charter and advocacy and outreach and ideas set forth, mostly through project making at different levels, the level of building and street, at the level of the neighborhood and the district, and at the regional scale, to try to influence governments and individual entrepreneurs to actually start thinking about how to return cities to the state of grace, one project at a time, small or big. The opportunity of applying these ideas to China, one of the greatest cultures, one of the largest countries, one of the most important countries in the world, is truly extraordinary. And it was with great interest that we accepted Mrs. Xu's invitation to design Provence Midtown. The principles that we applied to the charrette of Provence Midtown are at the core of the New Urbanism. We designed a mile-by-mile urban precinct that included a very interconnected set of streets that allowed for movement in various vehicles, which allowed for multimodal movement, including strong pedestrian movement. We put forth images and regulations that would generate an environment which was not only building-based, but also space-based, that the space between buildings became fundamental to establishing an urban quality, the variety and the nature of the space between buildings. We proposed an environment that was very compact in the sense that lots of activities came to be close to each other and within the access of most people living there, things like commercial activity, civic activity, recreational activity, access to health, access to education, and so on, mostly by walking or transit. And we thought that the one of the greatest aspects of this kind of movement, which is the aspect of diversity in buildings and activity, was also served excellently in this plan, because it was possible to see that not two parts of this kind of environment we're proposing was the same as every other. So we managed to take away one of the worst aspects of the current state of Chinese planning and architecture, which is just the sameness of everything. It was with great pride and with great interest that we engaged in designing the experimental project with the help of our Chinese colleagues, both at the design level at first and at the working drawing level, which is a process that is currently beginning. And of course, with the help of our landscape architect colleagues as well. The most important aspect, the most important theoretical aspect of understanding how the experimental project is designed is based on the idea of the block. The block is something that's always missing entirely from modernist design. So it's an urban ingredient that combines the two most important aspects of city making, because on the one hand, it combines buildings in relationship to each other, and it also makes these buildings, and it also places these buildings in a relationship to the space of the street. So it was really through the use of the block as an idea that much of the design of the experimental project is developed. There are some very, very simple ideas that this project is based on, and of course, simplicity is more difficult than complexity. So to get to this degree of refinement, we spent 6 months designing and with your help, and we're very, very thankful for that help. Basically, the project is organized around public space. Buildings are put on the ground in order not only to be themselves, but particularly to leverage a beautiful public space between them. So in the middle of the block, there is a square, and within each block, there is a quad, a space that the units and the buildings share. It is in this space that people interact. It is this space that is landscaped. It is this space that really gives the greatest identity to the project as a whole. Within this framework or space, we're introducing a number of streets. We're introducing a number of streets that are pedestrian and vehicular and service, and connect across our project to the other parts of Provence Midtown, because we are not thinking of our work as being an island. We're thinking of our work as being completely integrated to the rest of the project. And through this network of streets, all cars enter and circulate and are parked underneath our buildings, so that in the end, the parks disappear and the wonderful environment is generated between buildings is for the use of people, particularly children and older people who are there most of the day alone. The third ingredient of this project is really the building ingredient. That's a pretty radical ingredient in that it is different from typical practice, Chinese development practice. Instead of having one building type that repeats constantly, we have 4 different types. There is the high-rise building, which is at 11 stories. We have a 5-story piece, a 4-story piece, and a mixed-use 3-story piece. And those pieces combine to make blocks. And the reason why this is very important is because every building type and the unit types that are within them end up addressing themselves to different kinds of people, or offer different kinds of choices to different kinds of families. So that you end up, for the first time, with the opportunity of having a say as a buyer into what kind of environment you want to live in. The units are amenitized in a couple of ways. First of all, there's retail within walking distance on the south side of the block. There are a couple of community buildings that are freestanding, one of them to service the food-to-table agriculture that takes place on the edges of our project. And there is also, at the base of every single building, there is a series of rooms that are addressed to the daily, weekly, monthly, yearly needs of the citizens for celebrations and for events that have to do with their social life. In the end, this very important three ingredients, the open space, the open space, the street network, and the varied buildings are interconnected in such a way so that they can have a life for a very long time. Real estate value is not made for a first sale. Real estate value is made for 20, 30, 50, and 100 years. From years from now, this will remain a desirable place because it offers so much choice, because it's well configured, and because it also can change. Pieces of this project can be torn down in the future and rebuilt in different forms, and it really becomes not a project, but a part of a living city. I would like to leave you with this last very, very simple thought. Although in many ways it's an experimental project, it is also a very practical one. While this project is clearly a pioneering project for the Chinese market, we are very, very proud that we've been able to combine in this work the best of what we had to offer and to bring from abroad, with a great degree of respect for the culture of the people that are going to be living here, your codes, both zoning and solar, the building systems you're accustomed to building in, the management methods that you're using. We have really, I think, worked within the environmental conditions that we found here. And we're really very proud that working with our Chinese colleagues, we've been able to accomplish this kind of very, very complex and complete project, both efficient and at the same time very, very ambitious. And we have very high hopes, really, that in the end, this is going to be a project that can be transformative, both for your company, for the city that it's built in, and perhaps for the entire country, if what we are arguing and advocating really has true, lasting, important, long-term value, as we think it does. Thank you again for your time, and I'm hoping to see you very, very soon and continue to work on the project.